Subtracting integers with integer chips. This is a digital lesson. Students are able to move these red and yellow chips around their screen in order to solve the subtraction problems. So the lesson starts with explaining what integers are and then explaining absolute value. And then on slide 4, students are shown that the red chips are negative, yellow chips are positive, and then if you add one red to one yellow, that's -1 plus 1. That equals 0, so we call that a zero pair. And then it shows students how to do a subtraction problem with integer chips. So for example, we have -6 subtract 2. So here we have -6. We can't subtract 2 because we don't have two positives. But we can add two zero pairs because that's the same as adding 0. Now we have two positives that we can subtract, which gives us an answer of -8. Now here we have -4 subtract -2. All we need to do is subtract 2 of these red chips. That leaves us with an answer of -2. So students are going to be doing some on their own. So here we have 8 subtract 3. That's a pretty simple problem, but they need to show it with the chips. They can't just type in the answer. I'm going to move these a little bit closer together because we need a long row here. So they just click and hold on the chips and then they can move them into place. And I'm just going to put some on a second row here, so we get 6, 7, 8. So there's our 8. And all we need to do is to subtract 3. So let's just take out 3. And we get our answer of 5. You may want to do some of these with the students, and then when they start to get the hang of it, they can do some on their own. Now this one we have -3, so they just put 3 red chips. Now we don't have one positive to subtract, so we're going to add a zero pair. And it tells us at the bottom to do that. We can add a zero pair because it equals 0. Now we can subtract this 1, and we get an answer of -4. So subtracting is a little bit more tricky than adding with integer chips. Now they're going to do a few on their own. Now, several of these I've given the hint at the bottom how many zero pairs to add. Eventually they're going to have to figure that out on their own. So we'll give them a hint here at the beginning. They've got 2, so 2 positives. And we want to subtract 5. Well, I don't have 5 to subtract. I have 2 to subtract, so I'm going to add 3 zero pairs. That way I have 5 total to subtract. And again, make sure students are showing this with their integer chips and they're not just typing in an answer. Okay, now I have 5 that I can subtract. 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm left with -3. Now they have several of these to practice. Again, for most of these, they're going to be given that hint at the bottom, how many zero pairs to add. That should help them in the beginning. And then when they get down to slide 13, they've got to figure out on their own how many zero pairs to add. Slide 15, just a little review. I can add zero pairs because adding a zero pair is the same as adding, and it tells them to just type a number in the box. They're just going to type 0. Now it has remembering the rules of adding integers. And then here's a method for subtracting integers. So they can also change their subtraction problem to an addition problem by inserting a plus sign after the first number. So -8, -6 is the same as -8. And I'm going to insert that plus sign, plus -6. And now they just follow the rules for adding integers. So on these problems, we don't need an answer. They just need to change these subtraction problems to addition problems. So here they're just going to type 6, add a plus sign after the first number, negative 20. The next one would be negative 8 plus negative 13. And it gives them a little bit of practice just rewriting these subtraction problems as addition problems. When they get to slide 19, they have to figure this out on their own. They can use scratch paper, and they're just going to type the answer in the box. Now, subtracting a negative is the same as adding. If you take away a negative, that means you're moving in a positive direction. So here, all they need to do is just put a circle around the two negative symbols, and they're going to change that to a plus sign. So on slide 21, they're just going to rewrite these problems as addition problems. So this one would just be 6 plus 5. So we could circle those two negatives and just change it to a plus sign. And then on the final slide, they're going to be doing all of these problems on their own and typing in the answer. So that is a digital lesson of subtracting integers with integer chips.